Hi students, today we're going to do our chance lesson. Now it's the first in our unit of chance, so let's take things slowly so we can really get some understanding. Let's firstly look at our learning intention. It says today you will classify events as likely, unlikely, certain, impossible, or equal chance. If we have a look at this word here, classify, that's our verb in our learning intention. So we need to know what that word means because that's what we'll be doing today. Down the bottom you can see that classify means to sort things into different categories. And what you'll actually be sorting is events into these words: likely, unlikely, certain, possible, or equal chance. First of all though, we need to look at what is chance. Well, as the definition on the screen tells us, chance is the possibility of an event happening. It's when we say something might happen or something might not happen. An example is when we say the chance of a 3 rolling on a dice. That might happen, but there are other numbers on a dice as well, so it might not happen. So chance is when we talk about the possibility of something happening. So what is an event then? Well, an event is a word used to describe any action that happens. For example, it might be rolling a 3 or a 6. It might be whether it will rain today or not. It might be when I spin a spinner, either with numbers or a color on it, and we're talking about what it might land on. It might even just be me walking to school. They are events, and when we talk about chance and events, we're talking about what's the possibility that that event might occur. For example, what's the possibility I will roll a 6? What's the possibility or the chance that it will rain today? What's the possibility or chance that when I spin this spinner it will land on red? Or what's the possibility or chance that I'll walk to school today? Given that I drive every day, that's highly unlikely. So these words from the beginning of our lesson, from the learning intention, are what we can sort events into. We can say that events are certain. We can say that events are likely. We could say that events are impossible. We could say that events are unlikely. Or we could say that events have an equal chance. I'm going to hide my face now, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they mean. Certain means it will definitely happen. It means it's 100% certainty that that event is going to happen. Likely means we're pretty sure it's going to happen, but there is a small chance that it won't. An equal chance tells us that there's an even chance it will happen, and there's an even chance it won't happen. Now the best way to describe that is to think about a coin. A coin has two sides, and when you flip it up into the air and you want to see what it lands on, it's either going to land on a head or a tail. That has an even chance. It could equally land on a heads just as much as it could land on tails. Unlikely means we don't expect this to happen, but there is a small possibility, a small chance that it might. And impossible means it's definitely not going to happen. Watch me now as I sort some of these events into the right category. Remember, the word sort means to classify. In each of these pictures I have a bag of marbles, some blue and some red. If I look at this one here, you can see that there are all blue marbles in there. The event here is to choose red. Therefore, it's impossible for me to choose red. So I'm going to sort that down here next to impossible. It's impossible to choose red because there are no red. If I look at this bag here, you can see that they are full of red marbles. The event is to choose red. Well, it's definitely certain that I'm going to choose red because there's only red marbles in there. If I look at this bag of marbles here, the event is to choose red, but there's only one little red marble in there amongst the 5 other blue marbles. So there's a small chance I'll choose that red marble, but it's pretty unlikely. So I'm going to move that down to unlikely. I'm going to grab this one and take it up here. This one has some red and one blue marble. The event is to choose red, There's a lot of red there, so it's quite likely that when I stick my hand in and pull out a marble, it's going to be red. So I'm going to move that to likely. And this event here, there are 3 red, 3 blue, and it's asking to choose a red or blue. Well, it's equally likely I'll choose either of those. If we come on to our next page, this is when we have some events, and I'm going to sort those as well. These are actions. Remember, events are actions, and I'm going to work out where they go, classify and sort them. This first one is you will transform into a cat. Well, I know for me that's quite impossible. I don't have the skill to transform into a cat, so for me that's going to go down here to impossible. And it's important to note that sometimes events will be classified differently for different people. Let's talk about this one. You will eat today. Well, I know I already have eaten, and I've got some packed lunch in my bag. I'm going to move that up to certain and say it's 100% definite that I'm going to eat today. Now, certain's an interesting one. I think you could argue that there could be a number of circumstances or situations that arise today that mean I won't end up eating. But I'm going to leave that there just for the moment and argue that it is certain because I have already eaten. So just be aware that certain is a tricky one, and it's always tricky to say whether something is 100% certain. Let's look at this one. When you spin a coin, it will come up heads. We've talked about this one a few times now. When I spin a coin, there are 2 sides it might land on. So it's what we say 50-50. In other words, there's an equal chance or an even chance it might land on one side and it might land on the other. Here it says you will have free time this afternoon. Well, I know that Mr. White is a very strict and firm teacher, and we generally don't have time to fit in free time. So I think that's going to be pretty unlikely. There's a small chance he might let us have free time, but I still think it's pretty unlikely. And my last one, it will rain tonight. This is an example of how things might be different for different people. You see, where I live, it's close to the mountains, and often the clouds form overnight and we do get a little bit of drizzle during the evening. So that's been happening over the last few days, and therefore I predict that it's likely it will rain tonight. Where you live, you mightn't have had rain for days, and it might be a very clear day today, and so therefore you don't think it's going to rain tonight, so you might put that as unlikely. There we go. I've classified and sorted my events into those different categories. You have a task now. I'm going to read out each numbered bullet. After each numbered bullet, press pause and do what it asks you to do. Number 1, in your math book, rule up the short date and write the title, Classify Chance Events. Then underline it. Press pause and do that now. Number 2, write down the left-hand side the chance words certain, likely, equal chance, unlikely, and impossible. Press pause and do that now. Number 3, the screen will change soon, and when it does I want you to classify, remember classify means to sort, classify the events on the next slide by writing them next to the correct chance word. Be prepared to explain your answer when I ask you about it. I'm going to move on to the task now. You can start working. Press pause and write those events next to the correct word. Terrific. We've come to the end. What we're going to do now is press pause until you are finished. If you need to go back, do that and keep working. Otherwise, grab a red marking pen. And then let's move on and mark your work. You should have arranged it something like this, unless one of these events was completely different for you. Certain is you will use a ruler to rule up a page today, but you've already done that, if you followed my instructions. Likely was you will come to school tomorrow. Equal chance was when rolling a dice, it will come up 5. Unlikely was you will find $20 on the way home. And impossible was you will see a flying pig go past our classroom. Well, that's our first lesson in our chance unit. And what we were doing today was classifying events as either likely, unlikely, certain, impossible, or equal chance. Now, just to recap, let's remember that chance means the possibility of something happening. An event is any action. And those words, likely means it is probable it'll happen. Unlikely means it probably won't happen. Certain means it definitely will happen. Impossible means it definitely won't happen. An equal chance is just that, an even chance of it happening or not happening. And don't forget the new word we learned today. To classify means to sort. You'll show me your work when I ask you to.